Good morning, everybody. This is your girl Fairplay here, back to do another review of The Passage, Season 1, y'all. This will be the review for Episode 7, which aired actually last Monday. Episode 8 came on last night, which I have not had an opportunity to watch it, but I will be watching it tonight. So, here we go. Passage Episode 7, You Are Like the Sun is the title of it. The show actually starts off in a flashback mode. It's Brad and Leela, and he's looking back on the situation, what led up to his daughter actually being killed. Back, I think in 2016, he has a cute little girl about 9-10 years old. She's a little soccer player, and him and Leela were going back and forth, being parents and whatnot, being good parents, being active in her athletics and whatnot. And what happened was Leela wound up not being able to make it to the soccer game that day. And so Brad had to step in and fulfill all the mommy duties that Leela usually fulfilled for the little girl. And so that particular day, when he was running around with her trying to buy different things for the little party or gathering that they were going to have after the game, they were at a convenience store, and it was basically a robbery gone bad. There was this drug addict in the store that pulled a gun on Brad. He was getting ready to rob him, and the little girl walked up to the store from outside, and the drug addict got nervous basically and turned around and shot Brad's child. That's how she wound up dying. And you see all of this happen. And after she got killed, of course, Brad blamed himself. Him and Leela went through a bad patch in their marriage. They even went to counseling for it, but counseling did not help Brad. It helped Leela. Leela actually utilized it efficiently, and she actually was able to overcome and get over what happened, but Brad never did. So they wound up divorcing, of course, because he went to the sunken place and he was just never able to recover from the situation. So that's what happened with that. And while he's recalling this situation, or recalling what happened, him and Leela were actually locked in the trunk of a car that's in motion at the time. And what happened, I guess, on episode 6, which you didn't see at the end of episode 6, that's one of the problems with this show, is they leave things out and you kind of just have to figure out what happened in some cases. Well, in episode 6, apparently after Amy got sick and they had to take her back to Project Noah, one of the agents or somebody, you don't see who it is, but they wind up hitting Brad in his head, and obviously hit Leela in the head too, knocked them out and put them in the trunk, and they were transporting them somewhere. You assume that they're on their way to Project Noah, but we don't know. But during this car ride, while they're in the back, and they're actually not handcuffed, but they have these things around their arms like handcuffs to restrain them in the trunk, him and Leela wind up actually getting out of the trunk. He winds up shooting one of the men and throwing the other man over a cliff. So it was kind of apparent that they were getting ready to probably kill Brad and Leela. That's what I think was going to happen, but Brad winds up getting out. And so they wound up leaving, running off, and they are on their way to Project Noah because he wants to check on Amy, of course. So they have this whole discussion. They're walking through woods, him and Leela. And he lets her know that he's trying to make sure that Amy is all right, because Leela's trying to figure out. She's like, you got to understand that Amy is not Leela. Leela is telling him Amy is not our daughter. But she understands because she's fond of Amy too. She just wants him to realize what's really going on. And she doesn't want him to keep on just being completely... what's the word? He's completely obsessed with taking care of Amy, and she doesn't want him to obsess about that anymore. So anyway, they're on their way to Project Noah. They have escaped, all right? Well, they also show in the flashback that him and Clark, of course, were friends at one time. They were good friends. As a matter of fact, Clark was his daughter's godfather. And when Brad got to the point where he couldn't stand things anymore, he eventually wound up murdering the guy that killed his daughter. So when he did that night, Clark, of course, showed up and just saved the day, and he kind of helped him get out of the situation. And it was at that point that he started working for Project Noah. It was at that point that they recruited Brad to work with Clark to bring in these test subjects to Project Noah. Okay, so that's how he wound up working at the compound. Okay, so let's see. So that's all that I wanted to go and get that out the way. That's the background on Brad and Leela and their daughter. Okay, So the next thing you see is that the Secretary of Defense has literally come all the way from Washington down to Project Noah to see what is going on, because everything is a mess. It's a catastrophe at Project Noah. So he's come down to check it out. And Dr. Sykes and Gilder, Deputy Director Gilder, is having a conversation with him. And I think they're literally talking to him by satellite or something like that. I cannot remember if he was actually there or not. But Sykes was trying to tell him that they need to destroy everything that's at Project Noah. They need to kill all the test subjects and just destroy the whole compound. But of course, Deputy Gilder, for his own ulterior motives, his own purposes, wants to salvage Project Noah. He has other plans and intentions that are not so good for Project Noah. Matter of fact, he wants to use Amy in the process. But of course, Dr. Sykes fears that he's going to be doing something he has no business. So of course, she's in the frame of mind now that she needs to protect Amy as well. She fears that she's going to be fired, because when they leave the meeting after the Secretary of Defense literally gives Horace Gilder full control over Project Noah. That is not good. That's a terrible thing. We don't know what's going to happen. Again, Dr. Sykes knows that she's probably going to be fired at this point. But when she leaves out, she runs into Clark. And she tells Clark what her fears are, that she might be fired and everything. And she tells him that they've got to do something. And of course, by this time, all of a sudden, Clark is on their side as well. Okay? So as a matter of fact, her security clearance has been revoked, which we're going to see that later on. So then they show Clark. Clark goes into Amy's room. Remember, now she's back at Project Noah, recuperating. And Clark goes into her room and he tries to talk to her. He's trying to be super nice to her. But of course, she doesn't know him. She doesn't trust him at this point. They have a little back and forth conversation where he convinces her that he is on her side. He's actually her friend now. He's trying to help her. She's concerned about Brad, wants to know where he is. Clark is like, well, he's going to be fine. He's all right or whatever. So she wants to know how she's just trying to make sure that she can trust him as well. All right. So then after a while, Anthony shows up in Amy's head, because we have not seen Anthony physically at this point. We don't know where he is. We also don't know where Miss Lacey is. You know, the black lady that was in in episodes like 3 through 5. We don't know where she is either. They left her back at the church. Hadn't seen her since. So anyway, Anthony comes back to talk to Amy. And what he's trying to do, his whole mission is to try to get her to stay grounded and to remember her mother and to remember who she is. And he's basically trying to prepare her for the danger, the evil that's about to come concerning Dr. Fanning. He shows her where her lost book is at Project Noah, and he tells her that anytime she's ready to go get it, she can go and get it. He tells her he knows what her problem is, because after he keeps talking to her, he realized that she's feeling guilty about her mom's death. And she starts to cry, and she begins to tell him what happened. And the day that her mother died, her and her mom had gotten into an argument. And because her mom forgot to register for her for school. They had moved again like they did all the time. And her mom literally forgot to register her for school. She wanted to go to school, but she couldn't go because she wasn't registered. Her and her mom got into a fight. She told her mom that she hated her. And so when she left that day, she ran off wherever she went. And when she came back that night, her mom had overdosed on drugs. So she felt like her mom was so upset and so sad because she had saw her mama cry before she left. And she felt like she was the reason why her mama overdosed. And so, of course, she's holding in all of this guilt. But Anthony wants her to get rid of that guilt. He wants her to forgive herself, forgive her mom, because he knows that at some point Dr. Fanning is coming for her, and he will use that guilt against her. And what Dr. Fanning has been doing, just like he did with Anthony, is every bad thing that goes on with them, all of the guilt, the terrible feelings that they have, he basically uses that to turn them into a monster like he is. The reason why it appears that these test subjects turn monstrous is because of some evil state of mind or state of consciousness they had when they began to turn. So that's what Anthony is trying to avoid with Amy, all right? So the next thing you see is Dr. Lear. He's still trying to help his wife, Elizabeth. She's in the house. She's literally sick. She's sick. She has started to turn really, really fast after she was injected with the when she was injected with this deadly thing that Dr. Fanning has. She was feeling real bad. She was sick. Her body's not responding to it well, and she's actually beginning to change. And Dr. Lear and Dr. Sykes are actually working on the antivirus for her. Because Dr. Lear says he refuses to allow her to turn into a monster like Winston and like Dr. Fanning and Babcock and the rest of them. So then the next thing you see is Shanna Babcock. She's talking to Fanning. Remember now, they're physically locked up in a cage, but they mentally communicate with each other. She's in his cell talking to him, but she's getting impatient. And she's starting to pressure Dr. Fanning. She's trying to figure out when are they going to be able to take over, when they're going to be able to take control and get out of this facility. And Dr. Fanning is stalling, but he's trying to wait. He's so hung up on Elizabeth. He's trying to make sure that she changes and that he gets her on his side before he actually goes full force with whatever his plans are. But again, Babcock is getting impatient, and she's claiming that all of the other test subjects are getting impatient as well. She also admits that she's feeling kind of sorry for Clark because Clark was her friend. And she says she doesn't know why, but she guesses just some human sympathy that she's having for him, some human compassion that she's having, and she's trying to resist the human compassion because remember, she's become this evil monster now. But again, Dr. Fanning is hell-bent on getting Elizabeth on his side. Then the next thing you see is Deputy Gilder. He goes to see Amy. You know, he's a bad person. Amy's already told him he's a bad man. He goes to see her, and she puts him in check real good. He's trying to talk to her and get information out of her and everything, but she don't want to talk to him. She eventually tells him, "Screw you and your weird mustache." And I thought that was hilarious. She's like, "Screw you and your weird mustache." She didn't want to hear anything Gilder had to say. As a matter of fact, she let him know because he's so controlling. He thinks that he has some control over what's happening at Project Noah. He's going to be in for a rude awakening. He should have listened to Dr. Sykes when she told him to destroy it. But Amy let him know. She says, "You think you have some power over what's going on here?" And I'm just paraphrasing now. She says, "You don't even know what's going on. You have no idea what goes on here. You think you have control, but you don't." So she's letting him know, you need to get on back up out of my face. And he's standing there looking stupid. He's going to do what people like him do. And he's going to continue, of course, to try to change the course of the events that have happened. He's going to try to control it, and he's going to try to use it for his own motives. But Dr. Gilder eventually will wind up dead. Not Dr. Gilder, but Deputy Gilder eventually is going to wind up dead, I believe, at some point. So while Brad and Leela are out still walking through the woods, they're trying to find their way back to Project Noah. This guy walks up on him, another one of those agents, I guess one of the ones that had kidnapped him and Leela in the first place. And he walks up on him, he pulls a gun on Brad because he's getting ready to shoot him or arrest him or whatever because they wanted to do something. I got a feeling they wanted to kill Brad and Leela. But while he's doing that, Clark, of course, he always shows up to save the day. The agent Clark shows up. Matter of fact, before he showed up, he was trying to contact Brad and Leela. He had been trying to reach them on some type of device that Brad was carrying, but they would not answer. They were purposely ignoring Clark because they didn't know at this point, they still don't think they can trust Clark. So, but they're ignoring him and whatnot. So, before we get to the point where Clark shows up to save the day again, they show Dr. Lear and Dr. Sykes. They're trying everything they can to save Elizabeth, but it's not working. Dr. Fanning shows up while Elizabeth is in the bed, sick. Of course, he shows up in her mind, and he's still trying to convince her to come over to his side. He's trying to tell her everything's going to be wonderful. This is going to be a new life. But she's still rejecting him. She still doesn't believe him, and she lets him know, "I don't want any parts of what you got going on." And he actually shows up while Dr. Lear is in the room with her. So he interrupts their conversation, basically. At this point, Brad still blames himself about everything that's happening. Him and Leela are still walking through the woods trying to get back where they're going. And while they're walking through the wood, like I told you, another man came up to try to kill him or to take them and arrest them. But Clark shows up to save the day, and he actually kills the agent that's about to kill Brad and Leela. Brad wants to know if he can trust Clark, but Clark lets him know, yes, you can trust me, because he's realized that Project Noah has become a bad nightmare. Okay, I'm going to stop this recording right here because it's about to run out. This is part 1, and I am going to do a part 2. All right, talk to you in a minute.